Hi everybody, I'm Nancy. I'm a children's book author and illustrator, and this is my YouTube channel, and I wanted to share a common question that I get a lot when I'm doing presentations for those that are interested in becoming author and illustrator. So probably one of the big questions I get is, how do you get a literary agent? And so decided I would address this in a video, because then I can reference it if I don't have time to actually answer this in a presentation. I'll be like, oh, you can check out this video. So I have had experience with 2 different agents, and if those of you who've listened to previous videos, I was in graduate school studying illustration for children's books. I signed with my first literary agent, and also I preface this, this video is specific to literary agents. If you are interested in just general illustration agents, a lot of this advice is not going to work for you. So this is very specific. So just wanted to bring that up. So 2 or 3 quarters before I graduated, I signed with my first agent. And how did I get that agent? I had been working on a project for my thesis that was writing and illustrating my own children's book. So the images that I had from that, and the pitch that I had written for that story, and the manuscript that I also had, and the book dummy, I was able to use that. The actual artwork, this is the funniest thing, the actual artwork that I posted, okay, so this was for something called #Kidlit Art Postcard. During the pandemic, author illustrator Gina Perry started this hashtag because no one was really in the publishing offices anymore because of the pandemic and people working remotely. So this was a way for literary agents, editors, art directors to find new talent. So on the first Thursday of the month, you can drop a image with that hashtag and kind of say, like, this is what I'm interested in working on for projects. And you can post it on different platforms: Twitter, X, Instagram, I've seen it, and LinkedIn. And there's probably other platforms too. So I actually posted a piece of artwork that was a scene that was raining with some kids. So that was what I posted on Twitter, and it was another illustrator who told me about all of this that I'm sharing with you. So I posted it, and I had 2 literary agents contact me after that. I signed with one of them, and like I said, that thesis project, it did go on submission, but it died. So it was the first thing I had ever really written on my own, and it was, yeah, it needed work, but I don't regret kind of jumping into the water, so to speak, early, because it led me to meet some amazing fellow agency siblings who encouraged me and said, keep going. Fantastic, and such skilled author illustrators as well. So grateful for that experience. Anyways, I ended up parting ways with that agent, and at that point I had the thesis project, which died on submission, and then I also had another book illustration project that I had co-authored with an author I knew, and I had done the book dummy, and then I had 2 more. One was finished, and then one was very close to being finished. I just had to finish the final art for it. So I decided to try multiple things. So I went ahead and I tried, I was encouraged to try these, Kidlit Twitter pitch events. So these are generally thematic. They're looking for maybe certain kinds of stories, or stories by certain types of people at given times of the year. And so you can pitch similar to #Kidlit Art Postcard. You will have a certain hashtag, you will put your pitch, and especially if you're author illustrator, you want to include some sample images to help really get some more eyes on it. And then an editor or a or a literary agent might like it, and you can directly submit to them, even if they're closed. So I did get two more literary agents, and that might have been one or two Twitter pitch events, and I can't remember which ones they were, to be honest. And then I had one editor like one of my pitches. So I did send. None of that worked, so it didn't go anywhere, but that's okay. In the meantime, I also started sending some of those book dummies that I created specifically to publishers that were taking unsolicited submissions. So that means basically these are publishers that do not require a literary agent to be submitting it. The author can submit it directly to them. So I started doing that as well. There is a list by Bitsy Kempler, and I'm just amazed. Like, she has this amazing list of publishing houses that take unsolicited submissions. So I started going through and I matched and paired things as far as the book dummy story-wise that would fit that publisher, so that there'd be less of a likely rejection. Because obviously if that publisher doesn't do picture books, because mine were at that time picture book formats, and they do like YA or something like that, that's not a good fit, and so I wouldn't bother sending to them. So yeah, so that was going on, and I was still doing #kidlit art postcard as well. So going forward with that, it ended up working out. The unsolicited submission led to a book contract. I didn't have an agent at the time. Then I did #kidlit art postcard. That caught the attention of my current agent, so I had posted a video process of the way I work, because it's cut paper, dimensional, and I use photography to provide a digital final file. So that interested her. We had a dialogue back and forth, and I was also doing that querying thing, which a lot of you, if you're listening and you are an author and you're interested in maybe illustrating, man, I feel for you. That is so tough. That is like nerves of steel, because, okay, so generally speaking, if you do the route where you're querying, literary agents have these windows usually, because they can't take submissions all the time, because they would get a crazy number of them. So they usually have like a window that they're open, and then you can send them work. So I started building a list of literary agents when they're open, what are they looking for, and once again, same thing as I was thinking about in terms of the publishers being specific to what they like or want, or that's what they do. And so literary agents, they tend to read certain things. So if you go to Manuscript Wishlist, you can find out this is the agent, this is what they're looking for. Because a lot of it, yeah, it's what they're interested in reading, but also I believe it's the relationships they've built over time with those editors and publishing houses, and gotten to know their tastes, and also lines probably a lot with what they like to read. So yeah, so being mindful of that, what you send people, so hopefully it leads to more yeses than no, or maybe even a revision. I did do a revision before I could, my current agent could send the work out, and it was great because it only made it better. So I always look at things of the people that, you want to work with. They are, generally experts in their field and their expertise, and they have insights beyond what I have, because they're reading, they're looking, and they're understanding about what the marketing potential or the sellability of something is. So yeah, because it's still, at the end of the day, it is a business that a lot of us love to create, illustrate for. So yeah, so that worked out in terms of that and getting my second agent. I think also, in addition to the story and the book dummy, probably what was helpful for, to get her attention, and it's one of those things I should ask her, but it was probably checking out my, my website and things like that. I think it's helpful. I think it really provides a more professionalism, and some people will be like, oh, I just did it having an Instagram and that's it. you're going to meet people, but I think it's few and far between. I think most author illustrators have, even as authors, they have a professional website, and it doesn't even have to be like you paid somebody to build it for you. You may have used, one of the platform-based ones like Wix, Weebly, or Squarespace or something like that, but having like an online presence where people can just go in and just check out your work. Because I feel like with Instagram, a lot of times, I post extra things that are just kind of like slice of life things or process, and I don't know that an art director or editor is nearly going to be as interested in that. But if you have a website they go to, they just like, these are your 12 to 16 best pieces of artwork. That's, I think, very helpful, and then they can bookmark it, or maybe they have a system of categorizing it, and that's an interesting thing. Editors, art directors, publishing houses, they all have different ways that they do this, and that's from me attending conferences and at the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. That was helpful because then you hear from them that the art directors and editors who may come and speak, that this is how they do it, and it kind of really broadened my eye, opened my eyes that everybody does it a little bit differently. In terms of your portfolio, if you want to get a literary agent as author and illustrator, having the those really strong pieces on your website and that you can show children, and that could be different age range, that can be showing a diverse range of children is very helpful to showcase that you could illustrate a book. Showing emotion and feelings of these characters, maybe not always being so happy all the time, showing that emotional range, also showing those characters over several different illustrations consistently. So that shows, like in this one scene, I have them close up or further away, showing different ways of how you handle the storytelling. Also environment, because sometimes I'll, I've had people ask me, hey, could you look at my portfolio? And sometimes, in the past, they've gotten maybe feedback from an actual agent saying, oh, you're very character-driven portfolio. It doesn't feel like it fits specifically for picture books. You're more concept or something like that. And I think some of that is because there's lacking an environment or place to focus so much on the character, and the character has wonderful personality and it just like really inviting me in, but that's it. And it might be just like a single character, because I've noticed that with people who are very much interested in maybe like character development for animation, and that industry maybe just asks for that. But in children's books, usually with picture books, when you're storytelling, there's usually, two characters, because it helps, to have something that you're bouncing back and forth to help move that story along. It's just really, I don't know, it's like very rare that I see, I don't know, it's like I'm drawing a blank. I don't really know anyone that just has just one single character. If there are, it's few and far between. So yeah, so be mindful of that in terms of your portfolio, that you show a character in an environment, interacting with other characters. I think that really helps, and it gives you more as somebody who is an illustrator to really play with storytelling as well. So yeah, try to have your best work, and also remember, if you're starting out, like, you're rapidly improving your skill set, so make sure you weed. And so in terms of weeding, I got this from a librarian friend. So they occasionally have to weed their library because sometimes stories, they are no longer really checked out, or they're, not a right fit for that library. So the same thing for an illustrator's portfolio. You want to weed out your work as you improve. Like, make sure you're switching out for the newer work, the better work, and that's going to interest anybody who is visiting your site again. Maybe it didn't work out for the first time, one literary agent, you queried them, but like 6 months later, you have refreshed your website, you have new stories or whatever, that's going to show them that, wow, they've been working on their craft, that they're taking this seriously. So yeah, I think it's really something that helped me out in terms of showcasing that I'm constantly working on improving my work. So yes, and then in terms of a a critique group, and I mentioned that before. I constantly still meet with my critique group once a month at least. It's on a rotating basis. I think it's every 3 weeks we meet. And I'm so grateful because I got paired with them from Storytellers Academy. So yeah, and I don't get anything back from Storytellers Academy. They're just been a wonderful online writing, platform to go ahead and learn more about how to improve my writing, like I said. But yeah, having those group of people who are really, willing to look at multiple passes on the same thing, I'm so grateful to them. So yeah, because it really helped improve my writing and illustrating so that I could get the attention of a literary agent and a publisher. So yeah, I hope that's helpful, and try to be kind to yourself. I know we always want that outcome of, I want to, get a book contract, or I want a literary agent, and the thing is, I just constantly try to focus on improving my craft, because at the end of the day, it wasn't guaranteed that I was going to get a literary agent. It wasn't guaranteed that I would get a book contract. It was just how can I do a better job of telling that story? And like I tell my students, it's it's long term. It's the growth of what you're doing over time, because as an elementary art teacher, which I also am, multiple hats that I do, but you have the honor of seeing somebody write their name, or for the first few times, or hold a pencil to draw, and you watch their growth over the period of 7 to 8 years, because I'm probably one of their longest standing teachers that they have for K through 12, and we call them specials teachers, your PE, art, music, and now STEM teachers at a lot of the elementary schools. And so we see a lot of growth, and I think when we become adults, we forget that, and we say, oh, I should be able to knock this out in 2 weeks. I wish it was always that easy, but you're gonna just level up, and it's watching that growth and getting joy from your own personal growth. I think it helps fuel it a long way, because I have received a lot of it's not something I talk about, because it's kind of it's kind of a downer. It's you go oh, you get a lot of rejections, you get a lot of or you might not necessarily hear back, but that doesn't mean that it's a never. It might be no now, but you can always keep working at it. And so, as you never know who's watching, and that is seeing that growth over time, and then you write something and you illustrate it, and it works out. But yeah, and also be kind to yourself about that time frame, because once you start either direction, if you are an illustrator that starts writing, or you are a writer that starts illustrating, it just takes a lot longer. I don't know. I wish there was the easy button that you could press, but everybody's so different, and it's going to take different lengths of time for each person. So maybe you see on social media somebody zooming by, but everybody's different, and don't take it to heart if you feel like you're slower than everybody else. I think that was one of the big hard things for me. It's understanding thank goodness for being an art teacher, because then I would see that in my class. I'd be oh, that person just needs a little bit of time, but they get there too. So yeah, I hope this video is helpful in terms of giving you some insight on, once again, it's predicated on my experiences, how I got a literary agent, and also be aware that this will change. This is filmed in 2024. The landscape of children's book publishing, and how people find new talent in terms of literary agents finding new talent, it could change. So it's something that you do study and see, and I would say it changes every 3 to 5 years, because some other platform or something else might come along that might draw that audience of editors, literary agents, and art directors to look for new talent. So anyways, don't lose faith, keep going, and happy writing and illustrating. Bye.